So this video I just wanted to talk about the pulleys and band setup that you could use. Depending on what setup you have, obviously can limit what you can do with this. Ideally what you'd want, and I've put my setup in the video so you can see. And again, if I had a choice out of using resistance bands or using a weight stack with this, I would personally pick bands. I find that, yeah, it's a smoother movement. It feels more proper. Not that the weight stacks aren't good, and I find if I'm using a weight stack, I would prefer the weight to be maybe 10 or 20 kilos lighter than what I could probably lift. But what I'll do is I'll have it 10 or 20 kilos lighter, but I'll actually connect a band to it as well, so you still get that changing pressure and it stays smooth. So pretty much I find my setup really good for it. So obviously I've got a frame that I can hook resistance bands onto. So I've got my resistance band that gives me my sort of pronation. And again, this one can be good coming straight sideways too. So if you just wanted to basically loop that around your leg, you can pretty much bring your resistance band to come straight like that if you wanted to, which is good as well. I like it coming from that angle. It's sort of the pin line, so it's good. I also have a resistance band up the top, and again, this is good for your pronation for if you were basically training your attacking positions. So from here down, just because it gives you that down pressure you need to finish someone off. And then I've got resistance bands coming from the bottom, which this one you can really use to put work into your bicep. And then I've got bands even coming from the top of that, which they're good for if you wanted to train your cupping, obviously, with some pronation. And you even can have bands coming from the complete opposite direction. So you could, even though this is right hand and you think it's kind of pulling you to a spot you don't really want to go, but when you connect it and also have the other ones hooked up too, this forces you to use a lot of chop in certain movements, so for training top rolls. So you pretty much, ideally you'd want to be able to have bands coming from all directions. And again, even if it's a weight stack, my setup actually has weight stacks on the side as well. So sometimes, like I said, I'll have my, say, 20 kilos of pronation coming from the weight stack, and then I'll hook maybe one of these light green bands onto it as well. So you might have the weight stack from here, and then when you get to here, the band kicks in. So that last part of the movement just gets harder and harder. So that's a great way to train it. But yeah, basically I just wanted to talk about how you'd want to set it up. So if you're someone who has just a single pulley in the middle, that's fine. What you'd want to try to find is maybe just obviously a fixed pole that you can kind of put your table so it's going towards that pin line, and then you can obviously just hook bands. You don't need a weight stack, the bands are more than enough. So yeah, then you could just wrap your bands around the pole depending on if you want it to come from low or high or whatever. So yeah, again, you could have your weight stack connecting for the cup aspect, but have some bands coming off to the side for your pronation or your supination. You absolutely do not need an expensive weight stack or anything like that. If you had a couple of poles and you brought half a dozen different bands, you'll find it gets very difficult very quickly. So if I hook all these bands onto it the way it is right now, I can barely move this thing. And I mean, individually, these bands really aren't that heavy, but when you start attaching them and they're hitting your hand and your arm in multiple ways, yeah, you'll find it gets difficult fairly quickly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of show my setup, and I mean, if people have the ability to kind of replicate it, you'll get the most out of the hand when you can sort of set it up this way. But just, yeah, just as a guide, even just so you can kind of get an idea. I mean, at a minimum, you'd probably want a pole and possibly the center pulley machine if you've got it. So whether that's a wall mounted one or whatever. And the wall mounted ones are actually really good because you can obviously loop bands around the pole as well. So you can get that doubling effect of the weight stack plus the bands. But that's it. Thanks for watching.